Well, hey there, friendships. Welcome back to Curtis' Corner. If you're new here, hi, I'm Curtis. This is my corner, and on today's Film Friday, we are going to be talking about none other than Thor, Love and Thunder. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts, my opinions on this film, then keep on watching. So as you know, this is another Phase 4 film. Thor, Love and Thunder is the fourth solo Thor adventure. Chris Hemsworth is obviously reprising his role. We have Tessa Thompson reprising her role as Valkyrie. We have Natalie Portman coming back as Jane Foster, where she was absent in everything after Thor the Dark World. We have Christian Bale joining the cast as Gore the God Butcher. And obviously Taika Waititi is directing this. He directed Thor Ragnarok as well. He is reprising his role in this as well as Korg. Now, visually, this film is beautiful to look at. The cinematography is absolutely stunning. Whether it be CGI or practical, does not matter. It is still visually appealing to look at. It is some of the most beautifully shot scenes in the entirety of the MCU. I know there's some films in the MCU that have really good shots as well. Some say would have done it better. However, this is right up there with being visually beautiful to look at. There are some scenes, on the other hand, where it's very apparent that it is very cheaply made. For example, the lightning bolt scene where Thor is holding the lightning bolt and he gets teleported in this dome of electricity in front of like a tree. It looks like something that you could have done in someone's backyard, just using like a phone app. I probably could have done something like that as well. In fact, I've done things like that in my job with the kids that I work with. So it's very hit or miss with some of the effects that they use. The CGI that they use, for the most part, is really well done. I've seen some shoddy CGI in some Marvel films, which is slightly disappointing, especially that we're in Phase 4. So there should be no excuse as to why the CGI looks bad. You know, there are some hits and misses, and sometimes things do get overlooked. And they don't fully render it until the actual physical release and digital copy release and all that. Which is very unfortunate because they should be releasing the full quality into theaters. Bouncing off of that, acting, really well done. I think Natalie Portman does a fantastic job as reprising her role as Jane. It is a different feel, I find, for Jane than what we have known her to be in the past. But it still gives off that same, we know this character, we know how she is, we know who she is, and we know how she acts kind of vibe. It's just toned down a lot. Her mannerisms that she had in the first two Thor films aren't as present as they are in this one, and it's because of what she is going through as well. Her portrayal as the mighty Thor is a wonderful addition to the MCU. I thoroughly enjoyed her portrayal of this character, and I think she brought a lot to the role. And it was nice to actually see her get in on some of the action rather than just kind of being a sideline character while still being in the foreground. She is definitely very much in the foreground. She has equal parts as Thor does. And it's just wonderful to see her working side by side with Thor, having the same kind of powers as him. Tessa Thompson, wonderful as well, reprising her role in this film. She's one of my favorite characters in the MCU. Not my favorite, but definitely, I would say, top 5. She is witty, she's cunning, she is very likable character, and I love everything that she has done with this character, and her look in this is like elevated to like 11 from Ragnarok. And I love the costume design that they have chosen for pretty much every single person in this film. Jane's costume, it's wonderful. Valkyrie's costume, magnificent. Thor's costume, he had like 4 different costumes in this. I liked his Ravager costume that they show at the beginning. He's not in it for very much. He's in it for maybe 10 minutes of the entire film. And then his next one, it's very like Norse mythology kind of resembling, with like the plain black, the red cape, but then it has like the fur collar. I love that, and I wish they had have kept that in the film longer than they did. He only was wearing it for about 10 minutes as well. It was very kind of disappointing, the fact that they got rid of it so quickly. His blue and gold suit, while it looks visually appealing on screen, the mask is where it gets me, because it is the dumbest mask I have ever seen. When he first puts it on, it kind of looks cool, but then once they keep doing more shots with it, it makes his head look like it's like super, super wide instead of it being like more sleeked back. It makes his head look really wide, and it looks like it's almost too big to fit his face. So I'm glad that they actually ended up getting rid of the mask like 5 minutes into him actually using it. So that was good. The costume design for Gore, it's very minimal, but it works because it adds to his character. Christian Bale as Gore is another wonderful addition. I find he brings a good fear and menace to his character, and he is definitely one of the more powerful, more scary villains the MCU has ever had. However, I don't think that he tops Hela or even Thanos. Thanos, you obviously needed literally the entire Avengers to be able to beat him. Hela was, strong in her own sense, and she wouldn't actually die because she is in charge of death. So in order to kill her, you actually needed to end the world that she was on. Whereas this one, again, it's another team-up type film where it's all just like Thor's core group of people going after Gore. And like I said, I think Gore is a very good villain, but he doesn't meet quite as much love that I have for the villains as like Hela does. I think she was a much better villain, and I think that also comes down to the runtime of the film. If it had an extra like 30 minutes, I think we could have fleshed out some of the characters in this film a little bit more and given them more grounds to either be more menacing or just be more sympathetic towards some of these characters. I liked the humor in this as well. The humor was really well done. But on the other hand, while there was serious moments in the film and more down-to-earth, grounded, or darker moments, they would overshadow it with the humor. So you wouldn't be able to spend enough time with these more serious tones in the film before they started shoving in all of the humor again. It's almost like as if they prolonged it just enough so you would start almost feeling something, and then they would hit you with some humor so then you wouldn't be sad or angry or upset, and they just wanted to keep it going. The flow of the film, the pacing, was very fast-paced, and that's where I think the half-hour extra being filmed for this film would have been more beneficial, because then you could have fleshed out the characters more. You could have let us have these feelings in these more serious tones and darker moments without having to shove all this humor at you. Some of the humor is going to be hit or miss with people as well, because it is very much a tonal type of humor. So if you're not understanding the tone, you're not going to get the jokes. A lot of the humor can be dry, but for the most part, it is very on the nose. You're going to be able to get it. You're going to be able to laugh. It's very humorous. With all of that being said, we're going to jump into the two post-credit scenes. The first post-credit scene definitely is really well done. I like how they are setting up more things to come in the MCU in the future. And this is a very important scene to be able to watch, because it does set up a good thing that's coming that I have heard about from before. And I'm very excited to see what's going to happen based off of this post-credit scene in the future. The second post-credit scene, however, it doesn't really add to the MCU per se. It's just more or less a cherry on top of the story that's being told. I think it does a really good job at kind of finalizing what happens in this particular film, and just makes you end up leaving the theater with a nice little smile on your face. So with all of that being said, I'm going to give Thor Love and Thunder a B+. Like I said, it's a fun, enjoyable film, but it really could have benefited with an extra half hour to flesh out these characters, to flesh out the story, to slow down the pacing, and let us be able to sympathize with the characters in this film and be able to feel some of the heartbreak or sadness or anger that we're supposed to feel without it being overshadowed by all this humor. I do think it is a good watch. I do think you're going to enjoy yourself if you do go and watch it. Definitely do go see it. It is part of the MCU, so if you're a big fan of the MCU, you're probably going to be a big fan of this film as well. It's definitely not my favorite Thor film. My favorite is definitely Thor Ragnarok. I think this is the third place film, which falls underneath Thor. It's nowhere near as bad as Thor Dark World. Do not worry about that. But if you enjoyed this review, make sure you give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I put out weekly videos, and hit that notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video, because if you don't, how else are you going to know when I post? You won't, so do it. I will see you all on Monday for a brand new makeup first impressions. I got my hands on the Michaela collection, the first one, not the second one yet, the first one, part 1. So I will be reviewing that on my channel on Monday. Stay tuned for that. But until then, goodbye, friendships.